Will do. You're welcome. No?
Hey, Tony, how are you?
I know that.
Has Lorelai covered yet?
No.
I'll call this meeting of the Planning Board, Southern Shores Planning Board, October 18th, 2021. If you will please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, everybody got a copy of the agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as written, unless anybody has any additions? Anybody?
Yeah,
I move we approve the agenda.
at the end, under comments, I'll probably be talking about the vegetation ordinance. I don't know whether you want.
Nah, I'd
Okay.
say that'd just be in the
Okay.
comments. So Ed, you made the motion.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Okay. Let's look, everybody got the August 16th and the September 20th meetings. Any corrections that Wes and Sheila need to know about? I found just a minor typo on page 7 on the August. Line 300, we probably ought to honor the Supremes on the Supreme Court and make that a capital Supreme Court rather than a small case.
Which line was that, sir?
Line 300. If that makes sense to everybody. Pretty small little typo, as complete as these minutes are. But I didn't find anything else in both sets of meetings. Did anybody have anything that they needed? Well, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th and September 20th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 16th and September 20th of 2021.
Okay, thank you. Linda, second, thanks. All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unseen. Okay. I think Ms. Schertzman is the only person in the public out here, and would you like to
Just
speak?
2 seconds, really. May I remove this mask? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. Ann Schertzma, 232 North Dogwood Trail. And I'm not here to talk about signs. I actually am here because I was concerned about the reconciling of North Carolina General Statute 77-20 with our town code 36-202, the lot coverage on the ocean front.
Right.
That provision. And unfortunately, I didn't know that there was already a ZTA prepared, which Wes just gave me a copy of. And I took a quick look at it and it looks great. Basically, what I was going to say is I enthusiastically support what David Owens had said in his analysis and also his language of potential building area This has been something that's troubled me for a long time, and I know I go to Wes every now and then, and I say, are you sure that the lot that is considered in the coverage on the ocean front is only up to the line of vegetation and not to the mean high water mark? And he always tells me, yes, yes. And then I say, but how are they getting so much on their lots? So I'm happy to see this. And I think the ZTA 2109 looks good. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Well, we'll roll on into, before we go into old business, Jan and Rick are sitting over here. You guys are welcome to hop in anytime that you'd like. You just can't vote, but appreciate input if you have it. Thank you. Okay, old business, which seems pretty old since we started on it in August.
Ancient business.
But anyway, hopefully we can kind of forge through ZTA 2108. And I would say, Wes, do you have anything? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to read the staff report because we know what that is. And
Yes, sir.
I will say that after our last meeting, we were struggling with what to do with flags and pennants in people's yards and just the common sense stuff that oftentimes get left out of stuff like this. So I've talked to Wes and kind of did a little bit of snooping around online, and I found a town somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania. I don't even know where that town was, but they had an extensive sign ordinance, and a lot of it was good stuff, way more extensive than we will have here because we've struck so much from the existing. But he and I talked about these definitions. Remember at the last meeting, we were having a little bit of a struggle, or at least I was, saying what was the definition of a permanent sign versus the definition of a temporary sign. So that's in here. The definition of banner, the definition of flag, and the definition of pennant are all in here, which would help us define how we're going to allow these different forms of signage, really. So let's just look at page 2. We're not going to go through the whole ZTA because a lot of it's struck, but the highlighted is the new definitions that Wes has put in here for us to talk about. So does anybody have any additions, subtractions? Is it too much? Is it too little for those 3 items, the banner, the flag, and the pennant definitions?
And then, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, and then
Yeah.
it's important to point out that, and I'm sure you're getting to it, but further below, we are requesting to delete flag and pennant from
Right,
the
yeah.
definition of sign.
Exactly.
So if someone wants to put flags in their yard, we don't have any regulations that's going to say your flag is too large. Or,
Sure.
Since we're down there, what is a captive balloon? This is just for my own information.
I did not look up captive balloon, but I did look up bunting in the definition of banner. But I assume a captive balloon is any type of balloon. I mean, I don't.
Okay,
Maybe it's on like Ed said, it's on a tether.
when it's tethered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would probably be fairly close, I would imagine. But we just wanted to be able to allow people to have seasonal flags and pendants, or, an American flag, or, Virginia Tech flag, whatever, without restriction of time, place, or manner. So it would exclude those. And then as far as going to continue on with what Wes has said on page 4 in the exclusions. We're jumping over a little bit, but in the exclusions, he has excluded flags and pendants. So dropping back on page 3 of 15, the definition of sign permanent means a sign attached or affixed to a building, window, or structure or the ground in a manner that enables the sign to resist environmental loads such as wind and that precludes ready removal or movement of the sign and whose intended use appears to be indefinite. I think that's a great definition for what a permanent sign is. And we have what a temporary sign is already in the definition. So,
Before we move on, I'd like to go back to page 2. I have a question about page 2 and how it relates to page 6. And what it is, in a structure or any part thereof, including the roof or wall or building. And I added in originally to consider, if it's on the roof, not to exceed the height requirement of that structure. In case somebody wanted to put something on the roof and say it's 35 feet as a hypothetical, and they put something on the roof and suddenly you have something that's 38 feet. So then I jump forward to page 6, and then it says the exclusion is any sign painted or affixed to a roof surface. So it's a prohibited sign. So they almost seem like they conflict each other. Here we say, in the structure, including the roof, then we jump to page 6. And the only reason I'm doing that now is because we were jumping forward. Then we go to the exclusions on page 6, and it says any signs painted or affixed to a roof surface. So I'm kind of confused, which is it?
what line are you looking at on page 2?
On page 2, I'm sorry, I am looking at line 22.
Oh, yeah, number 1.
Yeah, number 1. And on page 6, I am looking at line 1.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's kind of confusing.
And that's on the prohibited list.
Yeah,
right.
yes. It's on the prohibited list, and yet here we have,
It's part of our definition.
yes. So we could exclude it from the definition if it's prohibited. Why even mention it if it's prohibited? That was my thought.
Right, so just scratch through including, when it says including,
The
it
roof,
would just be the, I don't know.
wall or building,
Wall,
or building, of a building.
including the wall of a building. So just scratch through the roof or. Does that make sense, Wes?
Yes, sir. Is a structure or any part thereof. Take out the roof.
Yeah,
Just take out the roof.
Yeah,
So
It would be
reads
those 3 words, the roof or.
yeah.
or, yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay,
All right,
that's all I have.
okay.
When
Yeah,
I-
good catch, Tony.
I have a question on page 2, line 20. Why did we exclude flag and pennant and not banner?
Because banners like what we see out here, tropical smoothie, I consider that to be a banner sign. We feel that it's necessary to regulate banner signs.
I see.
And we are looking to exclude flags and pennants from regulation. So,
Okay.
yes, sir.
While we're there, the exclusion of any regulation of flag, we have limited control. We have over size and location are things that we can control. And I think most of us in our neighborhoods many people have American flags and different kinds of flags. I recently was in South Carolina and passed an enormous flag that was probably the size of this room. And it was on a residential parcel and visible from the highway. And it was a sign of the type of nature that would offend many people. Regardless of the offensive nature of the sign, of the flag, the size of the flag is what struck me as something that we might consider including in our regulation.
Well, when I talked to Wes, and I think we can kind of look into this a little bit more when we get there on the table, but I was over on Seascape last Monday, and there's a pretty big offensive, I would call it a banner that's over the railing of somebody's house for all to see. Anybody that wants to see this sign playing golf, and it's in your face. I would call that a banner. It's not I guess it could be a flag, but it's draped over. And Wes, you're thinking more in terms of a banner being like the flagpole or the pole banners or whatever they are over here at Tropical Smoothie. I mean, you see those a lot. But
Well,
I'm just wondering, along the lines that Robert's talking about, was it flying in the air? Or?
Yes, it was a flag on a flagpole.
Oh, wow.
And with a structure, we have a structure limit, I guess. Someone couldn't erect a flagpole in their yard higher than 35 feet, is that right?
I think we do have a section of the town code that does address flagpoles and the height of them.
And the height of flagpoles?
I believe so.
Okay, so we might have that part covered. I'm just thinking, a standard 3x5 or whatever size most people have of American flags,
Yeah.
those kinds of things, that we have the authority to regulate size and location. And it just occurs to me that
Well, if
we
we're
might not
not regulating
flag.
a flag, period, then yeah, that would.
Then someone could put as large a flag as they like.
No, I want to say that was something that we had to take out at one point, the height limit on flagpoles. So I don't
Okay.
think we have a restriction on the height.
Wes, I think you took that out when the Civic Association was going to make the tower
That's
a
right.
flagpole.
That's correct.
And that's when it was
That's right.
taken out.
It was in there at one point. I think it was 35 feet. I can't remember.
Well, I mean, how, do you have any suggestions, Wes, on how we can, say, if we're going to regulate a flag, would it be a size limit on it? Square foot?
Yes, sir.
Square
But
footage
I think we would have to add it to the table, the applicable table. Under type of sign, we would have to include it
As a sign.
as a sign, and we would have to add it to, non-residential. Yeah, type of sign allowed and permanent signage. I mean, we'd probably consider it temporary, right?
Well, then it would fall under, the.
So yeah, under,
No,
under temporary, where it says, where it has a section. I mean, yeah, that's what we would have to do.
So then we're back to square one where we're saying, well, you can't put out a seasonal flag or, even an American flag.
It wouldn't be saying that it wouldn't be prohibiting them. It would be putting some sort of regulation, putting in place regulations for them, saying they can't be greater than X square feet or X in height. if that's what the intent is,
X square feet or what? What was the other part?
or X feet in height.
Those two simple things would be, I think would cover what my concern was. You know, you could say it's no greater than 3 by 5 or 15 square feet and no higher than 35 feet in a residential zoning district. We can only control where and how big. We can't control the content. So if somebody puts a
Right,
flag
sure.
up that's offensive, I mean,
Well, how would we,
I just don't want a giant one.
how would we keep, Wes, how would we keep flags from being in the temporary category when we've got, you know, time, place, and manner? I mean, you know, you see a lot of people that have flag poles. I mean, there's quite a few that are attached to trees on Dogwood Trail.
True.
I mean, I don't think we want to get too crazy with this, but.
No,
If
as
we-
I said, just
if-
the size. And I don't have any examples of anyone exceeding it
Yeah.
at this point.
I just looked up a commercial flag size and from a company and what they recommend. And a 50-foot flagpole is 6 by 10 foot. Then it goes up. A 60-foot is 8 by 12, et cetera, et cetera. But 50-foot flagpole is a 6 by 10, which is a pretty
It's a
big
big
flag.
I would think 4 by 6 would be,
Yeah.
that's, I know,
I'm just thinking some, I know my dad, when he
Yeah.
died, his mom got the American flag.
Right.
Because he was a serviceman,
Yeah.
and I think they're more like
Yeah.
46.
Yeah.
the bigger flagpoles, we've got a big flagpole at one of my cousin's properties. It has the yard arms on it and they fly flags below, but that's a 4 by 6 flag. So
This-
4 by 6.
the size
4
will
by-
be good, but then if we're going to regulate a flag, how do we say that it's not temporary?
It would have to be temporary by definition.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the structure necessary to support it?
Well, can we go with the height, 35 feet? I mean, that's as high as it is, the height, the standard height,
Mm-hmm.
35 feet.
Yeah, a 3 by 5 foot flag is the standard flag size.
That's a-
And
that's
that
why-
is used on a 20-foot high pole.
Well, right now, let's take in table E, temporary signage, we're proposing to allow three temporary signs. One could be a sign that the property's for sale, for lease, or for rent. Another one could be a freestanding sign. And then another could be a flag. I mean,
Yeah.
we're allowing 3
In permanent,
in temporary,
Temporary.
I mean,
in temporary.
Somebody's gonna put up a flagpole, it's not gonna be temporary.
But I would argue that the height restriction in table E for temporary would, since it's called a sign, the maximum feet above grade is 5 feet. For freestanding signs, 12 feet for banners, and then we could put in whatever for flag.
Okay.
so what,
If you wanted to put in 35 for flag, I would just add in table E after banners 12, flag 35. Then the maximum size is 3.5 already for temporary signs.
I
So-
apologize for
well,
creating a solution to a problem that does not yet exist. But I think it might be important at some point.
So if you all want to move forward with that, we would just keep flag in the definition of sign, and I would add it to table E.
table E,
Yes, sir?
well, there's one problem with that. It's called maximum duration per calendar year. And we have
Correct.
to have an exclusion in there for
In
flags.
Then additional requirements, we could say flags are not subject to maximum 90-day duration,
There you
similar to the for sale or for lease.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
reasonable. We have hit the concern on that end as well. Everybody in favor of what we're trying to do there?
Yeah.
Wes, can you maybe give us a brief read back on what you think?
Yes, sir. We would leave flag in the definition of sign on page 2. We would delete D flags on page 4, which is exclusions. And then we would go to table E, temporary signage for residential districts. And we could also do it for government commercial districts. We would put under the column says, where'd it go? Flags, after banners, 12, it would say flags, 35, if that's the number you all are comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, I would think we wouldn't want to exceed the allowed height of a roof.
And then we would add in the additional requirements, a number 6 in that same table that states that flags are not subject to the maximum 90-day duration.
Okay, so that would be an add-on after 5.
Correct. It would
Okay.
be number 6.
Yeah. All right.
And that would be it.
And we wouldn't need to address pendants because they're not going to be in the definition of sign.
Correct. Correct.
Right. Everybody okay with that? I mean,
Are you gonna put in a maximum size?
oh, 4 by 6?
For flags,
Yeah, or,
well, right now, if it's considered a temporary sign, it would be 3 by 5. 3.5 square feet, excuse me, would be the maximum surface area.
Well, the legislature likes 4x6 because that's what they put in the North Carolina Plan Community Act, which I don't think you're subject to, but
Well, I would
I'm just saying
suggest,
you like 6-foot flags, American flags.
well, if we want a different square footage, then I would add in table E on the column for maximum surface area for a single sign, I would put flags and then colon, and whatever
yeah,
height you all feel, you all recommend. You were saying 6 by 4,
yeah.
Yeah.
24 square
24
feet.
square feet?
Yeah. For the exception of a sign. I mean, a flag.
So in that second column for maximum surface area for a single sign, it would say flags. I would put that first, actually. Flags, 24. All others, 3.5 per side.
Okay. All right, well, I think that takes care of,
Yes, thank you.
yeah. Well, and thanks for bringing that up. I mean, the one over there on Seascape, you seen it, Rick?
Yeah.
I mean,
I seen it too.
it's,
It's one in, I think.
before you, it's right, on the main fairway on the left-hand side when you turn into the Seascape. It's a big one that hangs over a rail. I won't say what it is, but,
The Seascape or CO site, I see one similar to that.
this is up on the Seascape Golf Course. You can't miss it.
Oh, it's not on golf course, it's just like on CO site.
No, this is on the Seascape.
But it's the same thing, it's a big banner.
Big banner,
right
yeah.
Down off the top, okay.
So my question here on all of this, Wes, would be, what is the difference between a flag, and I would imagine this could swing both ways. It could be on a flagpole flapping in the wind, or it could be put over the rail. That thing's obviously, one I'm talking about is obviously bigger than 4x6. So is that considered a banner or a flag?
Hard to say.
Or
So in our ordinance, if it were passed, that banner could not be larger than 3.5
Right, yeah,
square
that's,
feet. It could not be higher
Right,
than
and
12
that-
feet off the ground, and it
that-
could not be there for longer than 90 days.
that's what we defined a banner, because you were telling me that we could do that. You could put it up in pieces. That banner could come up in pieces.
right.
But I'm a little confused on how we bring the size. I mean, we can't control the content of what a banner says, no matter how offensive it is. But we certainly can control how long it stays out. And so that we just need to,
What was the definition of flag? Does it have to be,
When
yeah.
and then
A-
a banner, and if there's anything else that's draped over a railing, would be considered
A banner.
Yeah.
And maybe we can put that in there in the definition, that flags are attached to a pole.
Yeah.
Banners,
Well, yeah, and it does say that in the definition. It says attached to a pole or staff.
In 2 places.
Mhm. And the banner says attached to any structure, staff, pole, rope, wire, or framing. So if somebody's hanging it off a deck, it's going to be tied off with something. So I think that would make it the banner.
So you think that's enough to
think so,
differentiate
yeah.
between?
Flag is is only attached to a pole or staff, whereas a banner could be this, that, or the other. But I think in the situation you brought up, if it's draped over a deck and it's hung up with strings or rope,
Yeah.
that's clearly a banner.
Okay, so do we need to, in the definition of banner, do we need to maybe work that where we're a little bit more definitive about what that says? Because it does say that it can be attached to a staff or a pole. I mean, should we eliminate pole and staff? It's attached to any structure. The one on Seascape is actually attached. It's a low wall for a screen porch, and it's a solid wall, so it's part of the house. And it's big. I mean, it's good size. But if we eliminated pole and staff, would that suffice, or what? I mean,
That would, like, I go back to the tropical smoothie, I call them banners. If you take out pole or staff, then those wouldn't be subject to
Yeah.
regulation.
Yeah. I think that banner, the definition of banner, I think we've got it covered okay because of the size limitation of the banner.
What table were you looking at it right off, Rob?
Temporary signage, table E in residential
Yeah.
districts. And then commercial allows it to be larger.
So what we're saying in table E is that you can have, and Wes, help me out on this because we were talking about it the other day. You can have 3 banners at 3.5 square feet per side. Is that,
Correct.
what if we treated a banner size the same as we would treat a flag? I mean, That seems reasonable.
But then we have a 24-foot square
A
banner,
4x6.
banner in a residential neighborhood. I don't think anybody wants that.
I don't.
I think it's covered well with 3.5 square feet.
Okay,
Yeah, we can go any bigger.
all right, well, we'll keep it at that then, but you could have 2 of them or
You could have 3 of them.
3 of them, I mean. Yeah. Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
That cuts through the banner talk, and we will leave the poll the way it is. And Wes, you're still contending that the tropical smoothie would be a flag sign or a banner.
I say banner, it's a banner sign, and that model ordinance you referred to
Right.
called them that as well.
Yeah, okay,
And I've seen them call that in other locations.
okay. All right. Okay, well, we got that out of the way. Do you have anything else that we need to talk about? I mean, I'm gonna skip back over to table A and just go back through from A to E again, but.
I can walk through it if you like, or however you see fit, Mr. Chairman.
Well, briefly, we hit this pretty good the last meeting. Does anybody have any concerns about what is included or not included in table A?
And if you don't mind, I will go ahead.
No.
I did add a new category, properties owned by a civic association or property owners association, parks, SSCA, park signs, and the like. It occurred to me that those were signs that we have and that we don't have anything in here addressing them. So I felt that we should add that.
Okay,
And I just pretty much carried forward what we allow for, which one was it? The entrances to subdivisions, I believe is the same one I carried
right.
forward.
Yeah, because I first looked at that at first glance on table A in the lower part where you're talking about properties owned by a civic association. I shot over there and I looked at number 1, and it shall be placed on property owned by a civic association. And I was thinking, that Chickahawk sign is obviously on town right of way. So that, I think we're covered fine with in table A.
Yeah, I was thinking COH Park,
Right,
Marina,
yeah.
they
Wade
have signs.
Beach.
Yeah, so I figured this would cover that. Then also I added churches, schools, fire stations, country clubs as a type of non-residential use in the table as well. That's new.
Yeah.
But everything else carried forward. And then at the bottom of the table, I created single-family dwellings, vacation cottages, and duplexes, a freestanding sign. This was discussed at the last meeting. We have many properties that have a sign that announces or says the name of the property or the house.
Where are you at now?
That's the bottom of table B.
Table B.
Table B, okay. Yeah,
I jumped ahead, I'm sorry, but
Okay.
those were additions to
Right.
those two tables.
and that's in the first part, the major entrances to subdivisions. It shall be allowed in town rights of way, which the Chickahawk sign
Yes.
certainly would be a good example.
The
of
Chickahawk
that.
on Chickahawk, and then the Chickahawk sign on Juniper.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
I have a question about the height.
Okay,
On table A, maximum height to be above grade. We have 5 feet for churches, schools, fire stations, and then 6 feet for property owned civic association, 6 feet for maybe subdivision entrance, 6 feet for single family dwelling vacation. Why do we have just 5 feet for churches, schools, fire stations?
That should be carried forward from the current requirements.
I just wondered why it wasn't just all standard 6 feet.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a good suggestion that we just, in table A, either say, okay, we're gonna do 5 feet or 6 feet. I don't think 5 feet is gonna hurt the civic association signs other than maybe the marina sign.
I'm sorry, yeah, so 9 is what the current ordinance says. And you all had suggested at a previous meeting that we reduce it to 5, but are you saying to make it consistent to bring it to 6?
I would make it consistent. Why?
Yeah, that's
Make it
fine.
simple.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. So in table A, scratch through 5 and go to 6.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So,
In table A, I don't think 4 signs will cover the marina.
I rode through there the other day and I don't think the signs that they have are directional as much as anything. So I don't know. I don't think that would be anything that would get us into trouble over there. There's the big one out front and that may well be taller than 6 feet. But I think it's, we can't hit everything. That thing's grandfathered in pretty good. But I think 4 would be adequate, and 2 for churches, schools, fire, and country club. Okay, so table B. Everything look okay. I mean, it allows it to be in the town right of way as the Chickahawk sign, but it shall be placed on property within the subdivision, even though it's allowed in the right of way. It's the right of way in the subdivision.
Correct.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, now, single-family dwellings, vacation cottages, duplexes, maximum number of signs per lot is 1. Maximum surface area for a single sign is 6 square feet, 3 by 2. Maximum height is 6 feet above grade. It is a freestanding sign and shall be limited to announcing only the name of the structure or the property. But it is a permanent sign in a residential district. Everybody okay with all that nomenclature?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Now, permanent signage in the commercial district, I'm assuming, Wes, and we've gone through this twice already, that this is pretty much pulled over from the existing sign ordinance for commercial.
It is, yes, sir. And the highlighted portions or Vice Chairperson DiBernardo brought up in some of his notes about addressing corner stores.
Right.
And the language that's added there, that's nothing new. I mean, that's what was in the ordinance, but had left out accidentally in the first drafts.
Okay.
So we're not allowing anything new with this. This is just putting in what should have been there originally.
Well, using tropical smoothie pole banners or pole flags or whatever we're going to call them, pole banners, where do they fit in? What table? They're not permanent.
They would be temporary and they would only be allowed 1.
And then do they fall under that 90-day rule too?
In the commercial district, the table says 30 days.
They're allowed to be longer than 30 days.
Yes, they have been.
So how do we regulate them from staying out 24/7? They do, don't they? I'm not by there.
They were taken down when we had wind and rain last week.
Okay, but other than that. I mean, a lot of businesses put them out and take them up every day. And then there's some that are in tatters. I mean, if you ride from here to Raleigh, you're going to see a little bit of everything. And I would like to be able to have them, I mean, they just go in something that's in the ground. I mean, they're very much portable. You just lift them right up. Is there any way we can regulate those signs to be put out and taken in?
I would
Because,
suggest if you
30
wanted,
days is, that can't
if
be
you wanted,
reasonable for a business.
if you wanted to put something that addresses that, I would suggest that would go in table E, and it would be another additional requirement. Banners shall be brought in, shall be removed no later than 7 PM, 8 PM.
Well, table E carries over from page 13. I mean, it's kind of confusing because you're cut off, but if you go to the top of the next page on page 14, that is government, institutional, and commercial district. So
Good, yeah, so
all that is in that district.
again, we're jumping forward, I apologize, but yeah, so I had to, in order to get it to work with respect to the for sale, for lease signs, the temporary signs, I had to create a new category where at first it said all other, now it's government, institutional, and commercial. And yeah, I would suggest it would be, we would put additional requirement number 4, and it would address the timing of banners. Banners shall be removed at no later than, if you all think that's necessary. If y'all want to
Yeah.
recommend that.
Yeah, I think,
That's where I would suggest they go.
yeah.
I think that banners would have to be aligned with the store, the business hours.
And it's only one per lot, so only one store in the marketplace could have a banner up for 30 days.
I think Kitty Hawk may have a reg, because when I worked at Trio, when they first opened, they would put banners up. We had 3 banners. And they came in and said, we're only allowed to have 1. And we had to put them up when we opened and take them down when we closed, as you say.
Right.
And we took them down probably 10 o'clock at night, and we had to bring them in.
Yeah.
And I know somebody from Kitty Hawk came in and said, only 1 banner, you have to take down the 3. So they might already have some type of regulation or over in Kitty Hawk. I'm not sure. But that did occur when I worked there.
Well, obviously, Tropical Smoothie has several, don't they? I mean, it seems like there's 3 or 4. I can't remember.
There were 3, and I don't know.
But under the current sign ordinance, are they regulated
It's
at all?
It's hard to tell. Yes, sir. It's kind of a gray area.
Yeah. Well,
Make a comment about the only 1 per for the entire marketplace. It seems much more reasonable for a strip shopping center to allow 1 banner per business, and it must be removed. It can only be out when the business is open. It must be removed when the business is closed.
but would you allow, I mean, how many businesses are in the marketplace? You'd string up 25 banners out there on.
That's a possibility.
Or maybe have them in proximity to your store.
I don't know.
Well, this is a starting point, and if it's something we want to revisit later, we could.
Well, I definitely think they need to come in and out with business hours. So however we can plug that into a use of a banner in front of a business.
If the business doesn't own any,
No, it's in the right of way.
well, I know, but it doesn't, it's not like Trio, or, in other words, where their control ends is probably the sidewalk in front of the store.
Right.
They don't have any control anything beyond that. So it should be, if you're gonna have these banners, they ought to be on the business itself, on the footprint of the business. Because the parking lot is common property for the whole shopping center.
Right. Yeah, I'm
That
not,
would seem like it'd be within the shopping center's rules and regs as to where you could put your banner, if,
well, to date, there has been no banners in the marketplace that I'm aware of.
I've never seen any, yeah.
You see them for real estate open houses.
I've seen them over at Southern Shores every once in a while.
Yeah, Southern Shores Crossing has them occasionally. But could we put, I don't know, something in there, allow three per property line, or in the allowed right of way? I just wonder if tropical smoothies even is allowed, because they seem to be pretty far over.
It's probably in the DOT route.
I would imagine so.
And so I don't.
We don't
have-
get to regulate that, do we?
We don't,
No.
but if we can we go back to the business hours?
Okay.
Table E, there would be a new additional requirement that would state banners shall only be displayed during business hours.
In commercial district.
In the heading that says government and institutional and commercial districts.
Right.
Now, are you gonna put a date on it, and that they put for 30 days, 90 days, or is it as long as that business is in existence? Because if I'm gonna go and buy a banner and I'm gonna be trying to put it out every morning and pulling it in every night, I'm thinking I'm doing that 12 months out of the year. So,
The table currently limits banners as a temporary sign 30 days per calendar year.
Well,
I don't think
no,
banners are up on 30 days.
No. I would think we could allow them for 365 days, just as long as they come and go with the hours of operation. But what does that do to could we exception banners in commercial area for,
Yeah, we could put another requirement that states that banners shall not be subject to the maximum duration of 30 days per calendar year.
in the commercial zone?
It would be under that heading,
Right,
so yeah.
okay. We okay with that?
Yeah.
You said, wait a second, what you said for a maximum 30 days?
No.
Banners shall not be subject to the maximum duration.
And then the height, is everybody comfortable with 12 foot?
Mhm.
I think that's about right. Okay. So Wes, how are we dropping back to a banner just reviewing a banner in a temporary residential use? Where are we at here?
A banner for temporary residential use, they're
Yes.
limited to,
That is 90 days.
I'm sorry,
That's in.
90 days,
Table B.
they could have up to three,
Yes.
3.5 square feet.
Still 12-foot height in a residential.
Correct.
Everybody okay with
Yeah.
12-foot banner?
They come pretty standard.
Just as-
Yeah, I think so.
As
Yeah,
a
it's a
comment,
standard size.
Wes, Table D, I notice, has an additional column sign type. If it's more convenient for you from an enforcement standpoint, a regulation standpoint, to add that column to Table E to distinguish banners and any others, if that's more convenient for you, I hope you'll just do that as you rewrite this. We know the intent, and it might make it easier to have fewer requirements.
What, I
Then again,
missed
it
that,
might not.
Robert. What did you start off with? I mean, what's your
Table,
suggestion?
if you look at page 13, table D has a sign type column.
Hey, what?
Sign type.
Sign type?
I got you, yeah.
Yeah, and table E doesn't have that
Okay,
because,
I got you.
because I was just suggesting to Wes that from an enforcement and
It probably would be cleaner.
if it's
Yeah.
cleaner for him to add that column to distinguish banners under the temporary signage table, I hope he'll consider that
Yeah,
and not.
okay.
He understands our intent and rather than adding a bunch of requirements that just make it more confusing for everyone, he may want to do that. But as a town enforcement official, I would leave that to you to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have any concerns in these tables that we picked over?
I will make just another comment, and it's not to confuse things more, but after I sent the 10, 15, 21 version out to the planning board, I did have some conversation with the town attorney, and the result of the conversation is minor adjustment to table E. And I can easily make this change with the changes we've discussed tonight. But what came out of it was, if you look on table E, in the residential districts, that's where it addresses properties actively listed for sale and properties actively listed for rent or lease. And that's under the additional requirements in residential districts. So what came out of that is we would remove 4 and 5 from table E, and we would create a new category in that table that states all districts on property where the property is for sale or lease. Because you would have to read the sign to make that
Right.
determination.
Okay.
So there would be at the bottom of table E, there would be another heading that looks exactly like, residential, government institutional, all districts with a lawful construction. And underneath that, there will be another one that says all districts on property where the property is for sale or lease. And then carry over the same requirements. So it's just a repositioning of the requirements for properties for sale or lease
Right.
or rent.
But in table E, if we do that, then you'd have a number 4 that would encompass all of that, or would, I'm just thinking, where do you put number 6 that we talked about?
So it would go 1 and 2,
Uh-huh.
3. We wouldn't be adding anything else under that. So it would just go 1, 2, 3. And then under government and institutional and commercial, that would stay the same, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay. Well, we added a number 6 to temporary signs in table E, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so it would go 1, 2, 3. That would be the new number 4.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, well, we will,
So I have a question. These are the signs that are on the fence at the ball field at Chittiwamp Elementary School. Does any of this pertain to this? You know, all those banners that are affixed
The
to that sign.
the sponsors.
That are there, 365 days of the year. I'm just saying that since we're discussing it.
thank you, Jan. Good question there.
I'll answer. Since I've been here anyway, we've always kind of treated those as it's associated with the
school
school, the functioning of the
property
school.
It serves as to keep little teeny balls from going through the mesh.
I mean, I have no problem with it. I'm just
Yeah,
saying,
well, yeah,
If if you have people now that have banners, and now we're doing this and not that, you know.
Right, yeah.
that's all.
Good.
I'll put up for that discussion.
I
Good
think
point.
the only way that they would be in violation is the maximum 30 days. I think the size is okay. And the maximum number per
Yeah, they're
lot.
close on size, but
Historically, the town hasn't enforced
Yeah,
any of the
and I-
signage at the school associated with the ball field or anyway.
I think obviously you can come through there with a knife or some scissors and cut them, but they're about as permanent as putting 4 signs into a, for rent sign on a cottage. And we're considering that a permanent sign, so. Yeah, but I think that might be a bigger can of worms than we want to take on. We might be here till 8, figuring that one out. But I think that we've gone through this, the table E, we're fixing the banners, and then the last section in table E is all districts where the lawful construction, alteration, remodeling, or demolition of any building or use is taking place. And that is the banners that you see on work sites.
Yeah, they're freestanding signs. I've never
Yeah.
seen a banner on them. but
Well, yeah, I
freestanding.
mean, you can, I mean, it's not a banner, but you do see sometimes even the silk fence that they use, it has advertising on it. But I mean, it's not a concern because it's short in duration. And we had gone with 3 square feet per side on those types of signs. So that gets a typical subcontractor sign out there, or a contractor sign without any real headache. Well, Wes, what do you suggest we do to get this out of our laps and into town council?
I think Mr. Gogansky has his.
Just my
Sorry.
clarification, Chairman, when you pull freestanding signs, that's similar to the sandwich boards?
I would think it would be any sign that supported by a temporary method of putting it, but a sandwich board, I don't know. Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably present with those. And, I don't know if that's something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I would say that they would be limited by the temporary sign restrictions for commercial,
Under freestanding.
in commercial as a freestanding sign, yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because they do come in and out with the business. I mean, they generally don't leave. There's a few over there in the marketplace, I think. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I know Currituck has specific for Corolla, when I used to live up there, specific wording as sandwich boards.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Do we have, I can't remember seeing a sandwich board, although maybe in there under definition of sign.
It's not, I don't think it's anywhere in the definition. The bagel restaurant in the marketplace used to have one up occasionally.
Yeah, but it was right there on the sidewalk.
It was on the
I mean,
sidewalk.
it wasn't any more obtrusive than, a table and 4 chairs. I don't know as we need to worry about putting anything in this ordinance that would regulate them.
I know.
And so if they're not in the definition, they're not regulated, correct? I'm fine with that, but it's a good point. And if things start to get out of hand, we can always plug in a,
Yeah, because they're seasonal up there, they're only allowed in all season.
Yeah.
Not during the.
Right.
season.
okay. Well, getting back to my question, how do we get this out of our laps
If you all
if
are,
we're okay with?
if you all are inclined with the amendments that have been suggested tonight, it would be in the form of a recommendation of ZTA 2108 as amended to the town council.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah. I'm ready. I think we've beat this horse to death. I'm sure Wes is ready. Well, I'll entertain a motion to do just that. Anybody?
I'll make a motion that we forward to the town council, ZTA 2108, a zoning text amendment concerning signs, and with the amendments discussed this evening.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Linda. Any discussion?
I think we did that.
Yeah, we have discussed it quite a bit.
Talked to it in depth.
Okay. Well, I will take a vote then. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None seen? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
I hope you got all the wordsmithing, but it sounds like you write pretty fast.
Yes, sir. If you'd like, I can share it with you before we go to council, just if you want to
Okay.
take a look
Well,
at it.
Maybe, I think we've got it. I think we're okay.
And if any issues come up, we'll
Yeah.
discuss it further.
Well, it's not like this thing's written on a stone tablet. We can always modify if, we have situations that don't work out for us. Get that off the table. It's been there since August. Okay, well, going on with the new business. Wes, do you want to explain what's going on briefly with my suggestion to table ZTA 2109?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ward, Chairperson. We are requesting that we table this application for tonight. The town attorney and I have been discussing this text amendment. As Ms. Schurzma pointed out earlier, Professor David Owens has been providing input on it as well. So there are still some things that we want to discuss before staff feels comfortable bringing something to you as a recommended ZTA. So we're just requesting a little bit more time so that I can work with the town attorney and/or Professor Owens and yourself to bring something forward that we all feel comfortable with.
I think that pretty much hits it, what we're doing. And just a little history. We have the good fortune, or I have the good fortune of being related to someone that's pretty darn smart in the world of local government in North Carolina. And he's put together 7 sentences or 7 lines that address, lot coverage on oceanfront properties. And I would imagine our town attorney may get a little bit more long-winded than David, but we'll figure it out when we get Ben Gallup's assessment. But basically, we're still trying to do the same thing. I think we're still trying to get to the same point in what's been in effect for 40 years in Southern Shores, which is, your take the first line of stable vegetation westward is what you're allowed to use with the 30% pervious or impervious surface. So I think we'll have a lot better idea of how we make this work a little bit better than it does right now without overcomplicating things, hopefully.
Hopefully, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to table ZTA 2109 discussion tonight, and the next order of business that we will talk about will be the potential requirements for produce stands in the commercial zoning district.
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, can we go back to that and just make it official, get a motion and a vote to table?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's no problem. It's
Sure.
just a formality.
Okay. Well, I would ask for a motion that we table item A, ZT 2109 tonight, until we hear back from, town staff definitively what we need to do.
I'll make a motion to table ZTA 2109 until we receive more information from town staff.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Ed, second, thank you. Any discussion on that? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Now, we get to look into some potential requirements. This is not a ZTA by a long shot, but just, I guess, more or less, we'll have an informal talk about what we envision requirements for produce stands, if we're so inclined to allow them in town. Can you just briefly tell us why we're looking at this from a council standpoint?
Yes, sir. If you all recall, you all recommended approval of, and town council subsequently adopted a town code or a zoning text amendment for prohibited uses. If you recall, there was a list of prohibited uses.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the prohibited items, and I think it currently is. And council, when they were taking that ZTA up at the time, they felt that produce stands might be something, worth looking into to allow in the town. So they directed you all to consider adding it as a permitted or other type of use in the commercial zoning district. So I thought that the best way to start this conversation would just be to take a look and see what our neighbors do.
Right.
And I found what you have in your packets are the requirements Kitty Hawk and Nag's Head have. So that was the genesis of this discussion.
Okay, so just want to, everybody's got the requirements that Wes sent out again today. We had them back in August, I think, when we kicked it back for this meeting ultimately, but everybody had that handout. I mean, what are you all's thoughts on how we can allow these things, and if someone wants to try to do one? I mean, I'm all for it. We shop at Tar Heel 2 down there, but I just wonder how in the world that thing stays put in the big blood. And we need to be a little bit more proactive on how we go about securing things. But it would be a great service to have fresh fruits and vegetables up here if we can make it happen.
Is that going to be a conflict with Food Lion?
Well, it would have to be on permission from Ashton Properties, right? Well, that's if
Is that the marketplace? Yes, sir. I would assume that they would need to have the permission from the property owner.
Yeah, it would be the first requirement, I would think.
But over here, there's no grocery store to compete with.
Right, the Southern Shores Crossing.
So, yeah.
But once again, it would have to come from the Stone family that owns Southern Shores Crossing. I would imagine they'd be fairly amenable to it, but I guess that's not our worry as much as how, we can, go down the list. I mean, if you look at Kitty Hawks, they allow the sale of eggs and cheese. I'm not quite sure we want to go there. I would think it would certainly be better to keep things to vegetables and flowers and maybe jams and jellies or something, but
Still need refrigeration.
yeah,
Have power.
yeah, exactly. I mean, what are some concerns that you all have seen in what Kitty Hawk and Nag's Head allows? I mean, they're allowing all of this, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Nag's Head allows hot dogs, et cetera, and I
Yeah.
think that's a whole nother,
Oh, yeah.
a whole nother ballgame, basically.
Yeah, that's, I mean, when you look at this, you need to take that into consideration, for Nag's Head anyway, that it's kind of on a different scale
Yeah.
than Kitty Hawk.
Definitely.
So,
They talk about tickets and all kind of things.
Yeah.
A couple things that I saw with the Kitty Hawk, concerned about the 10 PM. I think that's kind of late.
Yeah.
The 10 PM. And down the bottom on O, in reading that, knowing how how vegetable stands work, et cetera, and anything left over, rather than on-site garbage and trash receptacles must be provided and properly maintained. That's very nebulous, properly maintained. I would say emptied daily upon stand closing, because you don't want that produce, et cetera, at a location overnight. You want that removed, because all you're going to do is attract cats and rats, actually, basically. So, this is fine, but there's certain things that have to be,
I kind of thought it was interesting. Let's see, it's J in Kitty Hawk.
Mhm.
Any structures must meet wind construction standards and tie-down standards per state building code. Well, how in the world do they do that?
yeah.
I mean, there would have to be some type of standard, I would think.
Well, I think it'd be more, how many, we have this one here, Marketplace, this one right here, that's the commercial.
That's it.
That's it, right?
What, I mean, those are the three group developments in the town, or actually, Southern Shores, or Sandy Ridge Center right here is what that's called, where Tropical Smoothie is.
Right.
That would be a shopping center. And then Marketplace and Southern Shores Crossing are group developments. But all the property pretty much that fronts 158 is zoned commercial. The banks, vacant property on the other side of this shopping center.
How
Taco
about
Bell.
across, the street from the Marketplace on Juniper Trail?
Yeah, there's some commercial properties on
yeah.
Juniper up till
Yeah.
you get to that first house. So, I mean, one of the requirements in one of these is that I think it's in Nag's Heads, is that it's an accessory to a shopping center or group development. And I think that's something that we could probably, I think that would be a good requirement to have, so that they couldn't set up shop on a vacant lot unless you wanted to
Yeah.
allow it. But what you see here is typically it's in a parking lot where there's already.
Sure, yeah, as Tar Heel 2 is.
Right, so that's what I would suggest, if you all have that same concern, is that make it a requirement that it's an accessory to one of these existing commercial establishments.
Well, I see the Marketplace, they could take one of those vacant storefronts and have the refrigeration there and bring it out into the parking lot. Is that what their display?
I would bet that would be cost prohibitive.
Yeah, because they'd have to rent two, knowing Aston.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's gotta have refrigeration.
Yeah, I mean, they've just run big
Yeah, I
big
know.
cords over there at
He's got-
Tar Heel 2. Somebody's got to have a plug-in for it, that's for sure.
I'm saying if you've got all that, and I imagine there's plenty of vacant storefronts over here, that if they use the storefront to get the power and store their refrigeration, they could put their tables out
Yeah.
in the parking lot.
Or they might possibly, I'm thinking this would be the ideal spot, Southern Shores Crossing. I mean, if I was looking into putting a produce stand, that's where I'd be zeroing in, but they could put a temporary service pole that, to pull power off if they did it in the, say, the northeast corner of that parking lot over by Steamers, or, somewhere where it would be convenient to get enough power to operate some refrigeration. But, I'm conflicted with the size, I mean, the footprint of the thing. I think I saw in Kitty Hawk's, it says, it doesn't really address the size, but it does say something in item M. It says any tent occupying over 200 square feet of the site shall require approval from the fire chief. And I would bet that this ordinance in Kitty Hawk's been on the books for quite a while.
It's gonna be.
In our town code, or the fire code, we require a permit per the fire code, and it has to be inspected by by the building inspector who does the fire inspection. If it's 800 square feet or more, a tent is required to have a permit, and it has to be inspected by a fire official.
Right.
So that's a note I made there. Is we do require a tent permit, but it's only if it's 800 square feet or more.
I mean, I would think, just putting some sort of footprint limit on, like, once again, one that's most familiar to me is Tar Heel 2. He's got, a building that sits on that parking lot that Lord knows how it's anchored, but it's got, shade that he can fold in and fold out. I mean, he can kind of tighten that thing up when the storm's coming. But it hadn't blown down the highway yet. I mean, he's been out there a long time. But I always try to use that same excuse when I'm talking to the building inspector. Man, you're making us do all this stuff. This buildings have been here forever. So we can't go on that assumption for, moving into 2021. Although I'd like to be able to go back to the good old days. We gotta think about how we would regulate this thing from a tie-down wind situation that we're gonna have from time to time, and then how it's inspected from fire marshal or building inspector. How in the world do we? To me, it almost needs to be something that's on wheels that comes and goes. And
Well, you look at the ones up in Currituck, like that one in Moya. That's coming off a little nondescript building and just
yeah,
spread out, it serves the function
yeah.
of selling fresh produce,
Mhm.
but it's
there's-
tied to a permitted structure.
Right.
They have to be tied in some way, shape, or form to a permitted structure.
Yeah, I mean, Doug has 2 produce stands.
Right.
So, I mean, they should have something on the books, how to.
Yeah. Did you find anything from?
I think when I looked at ducks, it wasn't really, it addressed produce, but it was kind of like Nag's Heads, where it addressed a lot of other things and like events and things of that nature. I didn't find it to be as helpful as an example.
Uh-huh.
And there's also one in Crowell too that they have over by Timbuktu.
I have not looked into Currituck's.
So they sell seafood up there, which comes into a whole nother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they
They
sell,
also do that, yes.
I don't know whether they still let you see
Well-
shrimp out of a cooler or not.
Over in Currituck, the regular Tar Heel there by the cotton gin, and they sell seafood out of coolers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole different can of worms.
So we would have to stay away from any of the health department. I don't know whether produce stands get into the health department.
And minimal, electricity for, refrigeration, I would think. I mean, just
He's got that
Probably.
refrigeration now. I mean,
Uh,
you gotta keep some of your
well,
produce.
60 amp service would probably take care of everything, I would think. But there's a lot of challenges to do one and try to meet the standard, the wind thing, and how it's tied down.
Is there anything in our building code for small buildings that would access the fire engine? Because as long as it's a building, met the requirements of the building code, which then would have requirements for storm and electrical. And, in other words, we don't want to tonight dictate how they have to put this stand together.
No.
They go to whatever the building code is, and they, that code requires them for the amount of square footage that they're putting in to meet that standard. And what we tell them is, okay, now you gotta go to the signage and do the signage, and then, the other things that are in here. To us, that's easier for us to decide, but let the building become part of the building code.
Well, that's like the temporary health structure we just
Yeah.
went through. It'd be no different, they'd have to meet those basic guidelines.
Yeah, because he might put in a generator instead of going off electricity, because he doesn't use it that often. I mean, who knows,
Yeah.
but we don't need to be part of it.
No.
Just let him do it safely because of the codes that we have, and then do it for any other restrictions.
Wes, I had asked you a while back, I mean, I've got it stapled to my sheet that I had from August on this. And I was asking you about ice vending structures. Remember, is there anywhere in our ordinance, zoning ordinance, other than it addresses, what I've got is wall signs, but it tells you what, let's see, it says ice vending structure, automated wall signs placed against the exterior walls of structure shall not extend more than 6 inches beyond the structure wall surface and shall not exceed 20% of the exposed finished wall surface, but it's more signage related. But I'm thinking those ice vending structures are pretty good size. They sit, there used to be one up at Colony Tire. I don't know if there still is or not. Can't remember, but they sit on a parking lot somewhere, and we haven't regulated those, or they're not allowed or disallowed in Southern Shores as far as you know, are they?
No, sir, they're allowed through a conditional use permit.
Okay.
It's, I brought it on the screen, it's number 10, ice vending structure automated, may only be an accessory use to a shopping center. I don't think we had parking requirements, but we did put sign requirements for them. So in order for somebody to get approval, it has to go through you all and the town council. They have to submit a site plan.
Right. I would think that if the town allows an ice vending structure, and those things are, I don't know, how big would you say that one is at Colony Tire? Is it?
It's gotta be 14 feet tall,
It's pretty good size.
because
When
it's
you
up
walk-
off the ground, isn't it?
You walk up, there's a walk up to it, to service it, say. But if we're allowing an ice vending structure that is portable in nature, I think we could somehow wiggle it around and say, well, if you can tie it down and you can get the electricity to it and it passes our standard, come to us with some plans.
Yeah, if we were to allow them, if somebody came to us first with a zoning permit, I would say we need to see what kind of building or structure you're talking about providing. The building inspector would look at it, and if he would, apply the building code as appropriate.
Yeah, it seems like we're talking about permanent structures a lot. Yet if you go to many of these places, if you go to Succotan Market in Wanchese, if you go to Dowdy Park, what they do, these produce stands come, spend maybe 4 hours under a tented structure, sell their produce and leave once a week. Succotan is twice a week. Dowdy Park was once a week when they were open. is this what we're talking about? Because I think if we say produce stands, I think a lot of people will think it's a temporary structure that'll take place maybe 4 hours a week or 6 hours a week, and then they leave, and then they come back the following week. Succotan's every Wednesday and Saturday, Dowdy was every Thursday. And that they're currently working under that. And as far as the refrigeration and all, because they leave within 4 to 5 hours, most of their hours are like 8 to 12, 8 to 1. There's very little refrigeration. They bring the stuff, sell it, and then they leave. So this is another aspect that we have to look at, since, what is actually the definition? The definition does not say permanent structure. The definition says, vegetable stands or, produce stands. That's, it doesn't say permanent produce stands. So we have to look that I think probably if you have a temporary produce stand, a lot of the issues we're talking about today would kind of dissipate.
Well,
It's just a thought, but there
I
are,
I would think, that works for like a farmer's market weekly thing, but I would think anybody that would want to invest in a produce stand would want it, to be out there as much as possible and keep, just like Tar Heel 2 does. He goes to farmer's market in Raleigh to buy a lot of that stuff twice a week. And some of it comes from Currituck, but a lot of it comes from the farmer's market in Raleigh. And he's got a big investment in just gas going back and forth to pick stuff up. But I would think that anybody that would want to do something like that would want to do it 7 days a week.
it could be, but the definition says produce stand.
Yeah.
And
Well, we'd have to define.
we'd have to
what that
define
is.
what that is.
Yeah.
And, Tar Heel 2 is actually the anomaly down here. Because if you look at all the other produce stands, they're not permanent. And he's not even here in winter once, he opens up, I think he closes
Yeah.
around Thanksgiving and opens up after Easter or something. So that's the anomaly, not Succotan, Dowdy, all the others. They're the standard that you see. And you're right, many of these are local farmers that bring their stuff
Sure.
in. So I'm just saying, if we get to produce stand, before we start pulling our hair out, we have to really do a definition of what do we mean by a produce stand? Is it a permanent? Is it a temporary?
I think we have to plan for both. I
Yeah,
think we should plan for temporary outdoor stands, either somebody selling hot dogs in the parking lot or like the weekly produce markets that you're talking about. If Dowdy does it Thursday, maybe we do it on Tuesday, or whoever our organization that puts that together might want to do. The town does it there. It's their park. But I think we should plan for the temporary type of thing where maybe somebody pulls up with a trailer, they sell produce all day, and they drag that trailer and everything they came with away. I don't really know.
Or leave it there and.
Maybe it stays there for 6 months and because it's a semi-permanent type of thing.
Yeah, I mean,
don't know. But
That's what I'm thinking. I saw one, I can't remember where I saw it, if it was in our state magazine, but it was a really tricked out, this thing folded about 4 different ways and it was beautiful. The guy did a fantastic job building it. It was on wheels on like a big flatbed trailer. And that's what I'm envisioning, that would not be like Tar Heel 2. That thing could roll away in a moment's notice, but it would have to be permitted to stay for 4 or 5 months at the time. To me, that's the only way anybody would ever make any money at doing this, would be to be able to basically, it would have to be portable and you'd have to tighten that footprint up every day, be able to fold stuff and move stuff around at closing time.
And secure everything.
And secure everything down, but, you know, the structural requirements and electrical, once we start letting something sit on the pavement like Tar Heel 2, I don't see how in the world we could ever say that that would pass muster as far as the building inspector would go. And then the parking details would have to be another consideration because, I mean, a lot of the shopping centers are, you know, square foot parking. You take away 400 or 500 square foot of parking, all of a sudden the parking lot's not in compliance.
Right. Well, there are some adjacent parcels adjacent to the shopping centers, you know, that someone could erect a small building, small structure that's adjacent to that parking lot that opens up like you're describing.
Yeah.
It would be on vacant land and not physically sitting on top of a parking lot.
Where the Stones have their, where Southern Shores Realty has their spring fling every year.
Right.
It'd be an ideal spot to
To
set
build a
up,
produce stand.
not permanent, but a portable.
Or a
produce
they
stand.
could do a permanent one. There's room there adjacent to the, I think. Same thing with the shopping center where the smoothie, Tropical Smoothie is. There is adjacent commercially owned commercial property. Somebody go into the grass and
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I think we should plan for temporary and.
well, Wes,
permanent or something.
is this something that, I mean, do we need to say, hey, can you come up with a reasonable ZTA that we can look at? I mean, how do we approach this?
Well,
We throw the ball, we just finished you up on signs and now we're.
No, I mean,
talking
it's that, yeah, and that would be fine. And I think that's the direction we can go. Y'all have brought up, made some good points tonight, had some good discussion, and I've written down some of the comments y'all have made. So I think, you know, looking at what Kitty Hawk and Nags Head have here, I mean, I think a kind of a hybrid, taking a little bit of both
Yeah.
would be something to at least start with. And then maybe I can also look into Curry Tuck and other places and see.
Some small, you know, temporary, they're gone now, but Duck has small produce stands. I mean,
Yeah.
little ones.
Yeah.
And you
So-
might have to talk to people on Duck to see how they're handling that.
But
Yes, sir.
that
So-
would be something that if we said proceed on with,
Yes, I
Potential.
I can take a shot at it. Yes, sir.
I would suggest go small and add on, we can add on rather than get, you know,
Let someone come in.
20 pages worth.
Yes, sir. I will make an attempt.
Yeah.
It occurs to me that there are a number of topics within this conversation
Yes.
that could, you know, in just the head, you know, just generally, it's like hours. Okay, we can debate the hours. Next is physical size. Next is what products are allowed to be sold. Next is, and we can debate those individually without having, because all of these, both of these ordinance, things are just all over the place.
Yeah, they are.
They are.
They're not, it's not particularly well organized.
Yeah.
But yes, sir. I think thank y'all for the input. Thank you. I can take that and bring you all a draft at an upcoming meeting to discuss, and we'll go from there.
Well, I mean, it's not like somebody's knocking at the door wanting to do one. I mean, we always want to try to help the businesses out. I mean, we tried to help them out by outside dining. I mean, it never really got going because we were late in doing it during COVID. But, I mean, our intent was to let the businesses that had outside dining bring it outside to help them out in COVID. So I don't think any of us here are opposed to trying to help an operation get going. And to my knowledge, I mean, Wes, correct me if I'm wrong, well, there's nobody knocking at the door right now for it.
No, sir.
We can get ready for next season though.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, then I guess we'll move on to planning board comments. Public comment. Any, sir, would you like to speak? No. Come on, you sure? Ann?
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to planning board comments, and we'll start down your way. John, you got anything?
No comments.
Linda? Tony?
I do.
Yeah, I know you do.
I'd like to resuscitate the discussion on trash cans. I listened to all 5 forums that we've had in Southern Shores and not in Southern Shores, throughout their county. And there was a couple themes that were pretty much standard throughout all of them. And Duck especially with trash. Listening to the comments there from the citizens asking questions to the town council, it almost was a duplicate of what we brought up here. And they're in the process, I know the town council is in the process of discussing an ordinance. This is October. November, and we have to remember the seasonal aspect of this. The tour season has expanded. So, and at one time we'd say, hey, we're pretty good until May, June. I don't know now. We might be getting more tourists in April. Right now, our next meeting is November. December, a lot of times we don't have a meeting. Then we go to January and February. So we're talking about 3 months looking at the signage, how this is going back and forth for 4 months. I don't want the trash situation to fall under that aspect. So I would like to resuscitate it and somehow at least bring it to the table at the next meeting. And if everyone looked at the current ordinance and just go through it, it's not long, it's a very short ordinance. And have some thoughts, and maybe we can start the discussion and move this along. And actually, I was thinking, and Wes, you might, I'm going to ask you a question because my thoughts were on this. Duck, one of the complaints from the citizens in Duck is the same complaint that I've heard here, is there's so many trash days in the summer. So you take stuff out on Monday, you bring it in. You take stuff out on Tuesday and bring it in. You take stuff out on Thursday and bring it in. So that's how many days. And they said a lot of people are upset over that because they're always in and out. I think Duck would be amenable, and I don't know whether this is even possible. Going back to the old methodology, is this possible? That's why I'm asking you, of having Monday for trash and recycling. You would eliminate, and Duck would be happy as hell with that. So would Bay Recycling consider that type of aspect? Because what we're doing now is we're always having a trash can out or a recycling can. And this was one of Duck's concerns, and I'm just bringing it up here as something to think about, that maybe we could start compressing to, rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, we only have 2. Okay, so I don't know, Wes, you would know better than I with Bay. I don't know, Bay might say, no, we can't do it. But I think if the 2 towns got together and said to Bay, hey, so these are all thoughts that I have. And what I'm doing, I'm reflecting what was said at the Duck forum also, because that and traffic, the 2 things in Duck forum.
Duck has waste management.
Oh, they have a different,
They don't have Bay.
they don't have Bay? Okay.
It's something that we've asked Bay every year for the past several years, ever since it's changed, and they tell us that they can't fit it into the schedule.
Okay.
We've asked numerous times. Everyone would love for that system, that schedule to come back.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Bay says it just can't work with their collections in Currituck. Because I know they go there.
Yeah.
For whatever, they've always told us no,
Okay.
but we can keep asking.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's why I brought it up. So I can pretty much drop that aspect but I just didn't know whether that was possible. I think yeah, it would make things easier and also cut down on the trash on the street, the unsightly trash cans out
Well, I think.
every day.
I think just, that is gonna be on next month's.
It will,
agenda.
it'll be on the next
Yeah,
month's
we
agenda, yes, sir.
definitely are doing that, and I would ask everybody to bone up on it and be ready to dig into it, because it does need some changing. Ed? Good. Robert? Jan, Rick, any concerns? Okay. Well, Wes, I just want to, I was looking at our planning board site today, and we need to add Rick onto alternate number 2.
Okay, I thought we had done that.
Wasn't where I saw it, but yeah.
Yes, sir, we can do that. My apologies, Mr.
No,
Gibbons.
no, we're-
We got your nameplate though, so.
And I think we're only one set of minutes down. We got 2 approved here. I'll sign them as soon as you send them over. So we'd get up, pretty up to date on minutes.
This will make, the ones you all approved tonight will make us current.
Yeah.
We'll get them on the website.
Send them over, I'll sign them, and
Yes,
then
sir.
we'll be current.
We will be,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
which would be great. Okay, Wes, have you got any announcements that we need?
No, sir, other than the next meeting is November 15th. On that is solid waste, potentially ZTA 2109 lot coverage and produce stands, potentially. But if you all want to prioritize solid waste, we can do
Yeah,
that.
definitely want to prioritize solid waste and be ready to talk on it.
We can do that. And Vice Chair Tony, Mr. DiMaroto, you had said at one point that you would like for me to distribute hard copies of the solid waste chapter
Mhm.
and send it out, and I'll make sure to do that shortly.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Well, anybody else has anything? 5 o'clock, okay for everybody?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Linda seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all, as always.
Didn't do too bad. Quarter to 7.
No, pretty good.
The trash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's.
We're gonna have to work with what we got. I
You
think.
should have, my wife ran it.